Check, check. Bienvenue tout le monde. Merci à Réseau Alliance et l'équipe du Forum de
I thank Réseau Alliance and the whole organizing team.
Education to meet the Sustainable Development Goals. I'm your moderator, Leo Rothschild. I'm also the Executive Director for Canadian Business for Social Responsibility, or CBSR for short. CBSR is a 22-year-old professional association for sustainability professionals and champions, both leading and emerging from a diversity of sectors across Canada. We're facilitating this network to get these people to collaborate and solve systemic challenges together, while also providing resources and training for sustainability champions and helping to position their companies as not only the best in the world, but the best for the world. And in a rapidly changing world of economic disruption, we see the Sustainable Development Goals as a clarifying vision to guide business direction for the next decade and beyond. We don't see this as inconsistent with the need to generate profit. Just as we don't see an individual's ambition to pursue a meaningful life as inconsistent with the need to breathe. Both are important, both are possible. CBSR's approach to education stems from the need that we're hearing from our corporate members who are saying that they need help to help them operationalize these Sustainable Development Goals. And so we do that through training, developing resources, knowledge sharing, and we're also developing all kinds of tools that are practical that they can use in their workplaces. And we are also developing all kinds of workshops, consulting services, and outreach campaigns. And an example of the kind of campaigns that we're developing is one that I'd like to share with you that we're about to launch in Canada. So this is intended to reach a very mainstream audience, one that may have never heard of the Sustainable Development Goals, and one that may not see or perhaps has some skepticism around the role of the private sector in helping to make this a better world. And so we're targeting these people and reframing these issues as a matter of national pride. So these images that you would see on the screen behind me are images that are common in Canadian folklore. Canadians cling to iconic images of excellence in sports, exploration, and international cooperation. But equivalent images associated with business is very uncommon. How do you have national pride in your private sector? These things are a very uncommon thing to ask in Canada. And perhaps we have a bit of a humble streak to us as Canadians, saying, "Oh, you know, we don't have national pride. We'll leave that to others. You know, we're good, but you know, we're still working on some stuff. You know, we're not perfect." It's a very Canadian thing to say. But we're asking Canadians to be a bit bolder with this. And we're saying, what would it look like to do business like a Canadian? And so we're really trying to engage people in this way. And we've developed, through testing the market, a series of business values that we've summarized in this way. So the idea of purpose-driven, to have a business that is working towards specific targets or trying to solve specific problems. Eco-conscious, this is obviously related to the fact that Canada as a country is very committed to meeting the targets within the Paris Agreement. But furthermore, it's also about decoupling growth from the idea of increased environmental impacts. It's about being globally minded and so therefore aligned with the international community's aspirations around the Sustainable Development Goals. It's around being innovative, using the latest thinking and approaches in this area that we've all come together through conferences like this to discuss and learn from each other. It's about making sure that we have the gender balance right, and that is really important because we as a country have said that having a feminist approach to many of the issues is something that's important to us. In fact, recently when our Canadian Prime Minister was elected and had Canada's first gender-balanced cabinet, he was asked, well, why was it important to you to have a gender-balanced cabinet? And his response was, because it's 2016. And so that's our response. Of course, this is an important part of our values because it's 2017. It will be 2018. The inclusive value is very important because solving some really complex challenges requires thinking that is perhaps outside of the four walls that we typically operate in and inviting other perspectives, especially ones that are inclusive of the fact that, again, from the Canadian example, we're a country that is seeing increased numbers of refugees coming to Canada and calling Canada home, and making sure that having access to the diversity of people who are calling Canada their home is an important part of increased success in business. The ethical symbol in here is I think telling a bit of a story around making sure that business is not engaging in any activities that might be seen as conflict of interest or corrupt. But this is also really around being attentive to stakeholders. And the collaboration value is really important because it's a recognition that meeting the Sustainable Development Goals requires getting over some complexity and doing things that one organization itself can't possibly do alone. It really requires collaboration with governments, with other companies, with stakeholders, NGOs, academics, and many others. And so this is what our campaign is all about. And I want to give you a couple of examples from the CBSR network to really highlight some examples where this is being put into action and the kind of things that are a component of the campaign that we're putting out. Although it's changing, Canada has traditionally been a very resource-based economy, and therefore oil and gas development has been a significant part of Canada's economic development. That's why it's really significant that CBSR's newest member is this company, Imagine Energy, an emerging player in the heart of Canada's oil and gas capital with a purpose to disrupt the oil and gas sector through the production of clean hydrocarbons with zero emissions, zero pollution, and zero use of fresh water. They're led by an outspoken, inspiring female CEO who is harnessing blockchain innovation and engaging other Canadian companies to co-create a cryptocurrency that's based on the trading of carbon. She and other leaders of a really fairly small organization, a 40-person company, are regular attendees and contributors to international meetings of the COP, or Convention of Parties, that are discussing important climate change issues around the world. And this is an example of another CBSR member company that's putting these values into place. Enbridge is a Canadian pipeline company with more than 10,000 employees across the country, so a very big corporation. They recently acquired a major American energy company called Spectra, and they're collaborating with their competitors in Canada to use aerial-based leak detection technologies and finding pipeline leaks early, regardless of which company actually owns the infrastructure. Enbridge is also instituting aggressive energy efficiency targets across every division of their company. And they've made some really smart purchases to position them as the largest investor in renewable energy in Canada. Enbridge is also consistently recognized as one of Canada's top diversity employers for its inclusion and professional development of women, visible minorities, persons with disabilities, Indigenous peoples, and people who self-identify themselves as LGBTQ. The other or last example that I want to share with you is from Keurig Canada. How many people here have heard of Keurig? Not, oh, okay, a couple of hands. You might be familiar with this company because they're part of an umbrella group of companies that's global. So the global brand is Keurig Green Mountain. And they're most notably known for their Keurig brewing machines and their single-serve Keurig cups or coffee pods. So they have a really interesting story to tell. In 2015, they set some really ambitious 2020 goals, including engaging 1 million people and significantly improving their livelihoods. And they're halfway there. They also set a goal to get 100% of employees using paid staff time towards volunteerism, and 70% of their staff currently use 5,200 hours of paid time toward helping their communities. They also worldwide set a target of 25% greenhouse gas emission reductions. While the company is definitely on track to meet that goal, the Canadian division actually already met this goal last year. And furthermore, they set a goal of zero waste to landfill by 2020. And once again, the Canadian division of Keurig reached 93% of that goal last year. The interesting thing is that they have not yet publicly celebrated these achievements in a significant way. And that's largely because Keurig recognized that they have a significant problem. And that is that these single-serve coffee pods they are not recyclable. And this has been a huge concern for their stakeholders. And they've found that when they are talking about some of their achievements in other areas, they are always being asked about these coffee pods. So they worked really hard, partnering with municipal governments and doing research on the very best materials to use that secured the quality of their coffee product, but also made sure that these are recyclable around the world. And so their goal is by 2020 to have a completely recyclable product. But again, Canada has been the one that got there first, and CBSR is really excited to be working with this company over this next year to be rolling out their recyclable product and communicating this to the public about how they can make sure that these products are recyclable. So, as you can see, Canada generally has a good story to tell about many of its small to medium-sized companies, its large publicly traded corporations, and even the Canadian subsidiaries of large global brands. We believe that the public connects to these issues on a values level. That's why we've attempted to summarize some of the most progressive aspirations and actions on a values level. And we've tested these with the public and with the business community, so we're rolling these out in a major way. And if you share these values too, then CBSR wants to work with you. We can help you access the leading and emerging companies in Canada and facilitate collaboration among people who share the same values and are working towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. I feel very honored to be sharing the stage with 4 people who also share these values and are have inspiring stories that they're going to share with you. They're representing social enterprises, and I think that after you hear some of these stories, you're really going to be inspired to realize that the Sustainable Development Goals are definitely within reach. And so on that note, I'd like to introduce these other wonderful people here to you. Starting with our first speaker, and that's Leda Bigger. She is from Brazil. She's the executive director of the Consulado da Mulher Institute, a social enterprise initiated by Whirlpool Latin America with an objective to accelerate the emancipation of women from precarious social environments through entrepreneurship. I'll introduce the rest of the panel here. We also have Neliswe Masango from South Africa, founder and director of Bear Run Investments, an organization that strives to ensure that individuals attain financial freedom by means of trading and investing. Bear Run Investments has expanded to incorporate a subsidiary called FeeFine, or Female with Finances, that promotes girl power through entrepreneurship and financial interdependence. We also have Luvuyo Sani, also from South Africa. He is a co-founder and director of Silulo Yulutho Technologies, an all-in-one provider of IT-related products and services, including computer training skills and knowledge, targeting the youth and middle-aged male and female township residents of Western Cape, to give them the ability to create employment opportunities for themselves. Luvuyo Rani received the 2016 Schwab Social Entrepreneur of the Year award at the World Economic Forum on Africa in Kigali, Rwanda. And of course, last but certainly not least, we also are joined by Bibi Russell from Bangladesh, a fashion icon in her country and the founder of BB Productions, which stands for those that are in disadvantaged situations and helps textile artisans from developing countries to preserve their know-how. Recently, she became involved with imprisoned women to help them regain their dignity through artistic textile creation. So as you can see, we have a really superb lineup of speakers here, and I'm going to invite Leda Bigger to come and share some of her initiatives with us. Thank you, Leda.
Bonjour à toi. This is my only French I have available for today. I'm sorry for that. Well, I really feel so honored by being here today, talking to this amazing audience. You have smiling faces and eyes that are asking for answers. I think that everyone who came here today came here for a reason, is that we want to take part on this responsible revolution that we are talking about on this forum. Everyone here wants to take part on the change. You want to change everything. You want and you will to transform the world in a better place for everyone. On behalf of Whirlpool Latin America and Consulado da Mulher, that means in English, Women's Consulate, I want to thank you all the forum organization for the invitation, and thank you all for being here today. Whirlpool Latin America is one of the bigger players in the world on manufacturing white appliance goods, white appliances. And Consulado da Mulher, it's the social initiative of this company. And I will tell you a little bit about this story, how it works and how it take part on changing the world. We have been talking since yesterday here a lot about how education matters on sustainable development goals. And listening to my colleagues, I have been realizing on how education can be a broad concept, We are talking in many ways of education as a key to change the world. At Consulado da Mulher, we work at entrepreneurship education for women. And how that story started. Around the year 2000, Whirlpool Latin America decided to redirect their social initiative, their social programs, that until that time it was based on philanthropy. They give money to some projects and that's it. And around 2000, at that time, United Nations were launching the objective of development goals for the millennium. Then the company decided to align its social responsibility initiative to the United Nations Millennium Goals. And going beyond philanthropy, it's a big challenge for each social project. We want to make something to get a cause that could really transform, that could really have measurable results. Then the company was caring about a real impact for the society. And also, the initiative had to be had to be connected to the business, connected to the brand. Then they made a research in Brazil to discover on what corporate investments was dedicated. At that time, less than 10% of corporate investments were dedicated to women. 15 years ago, we didn't talk a lot about gender equality. And the company have this visionary approach, mainly based on the Millennium Objectives of Development. And also, research shows that in most of countries in the world, women usually decide 70 to 8% of the purchasing process. I don't know if you're aware of that, if it's the same, is like this in Canada and here in France. Usually, even if women has not the credit card, or if even when she's not who are the paying, mainly, often, she is influencing something who will decide to buy. Well, it's also a good reason for the companies to be close to the women, to understand the women, because they have the power of decision on buying products. This is a reason, of course, if you are talking as a business, as a company, but it's not, it could not be the main reason for choosing on target. The most important argument for us and for company to choosing women as a social target is that we believe and we are pretty sure that all the investments that you make in women will be replicated. We have data, we have many research, especially in Brazil and at other development countries, in development countries, that income generated by women is majority, 90%, around 9% is reinvested on the household and on their kids' education. So what it means, investing on women means investing also on children education, on better conditions for everyone, better life for everyone. At Consulado da Mulher, we work especially with middle schooling women. You can see them on the pictures, on the presentation. And they usually led very small business families initiatives, mainly related to the food. As a colleague said yesterday, to run a business on food sector, you don't need to be an engineer. And also, we are producing something that is not superfluous because everyone needs to eat every day. And that is a safe way of generating income for them. We focus on business skills development, and give small seed money for them. Also, the company produces white goods appliances. We work with women that produce food. Then we give to them the appliance that they need. They don't have to pay for it. Stoves and microwaves and fridges. We are giving like seed money to start the business. And after that, after 2 years working together, they are able to go by themselves. Our methodology focuses on how to run the business. For example, we talk about marketing, we talk about sales, we talk about how to make new clients, how to have a good supplier chain. But we also have open dialogues on gender questions. We promote dialogues on autonomy, on how to be a really participant citizen on your community, on really to have your rights ensured as a woman. This is the difference when you focus on methodology specific on women. There is some differences. For example, women usually have to take care of the home, take care of the kids. Then, if you want to work with them, you have to respect their environment. And as I said, the full process of advisory takes around 2 years. We have a team made by social educators that goes to the community, work with them, make diagnosis on the first stage, to know how the business is going, how is the gaps, and together with the community, together with the women, we set the priorities on which issues, business issues, we will work for the next 2 years. For these women, since the beginning to the end of the process, we usually register an increase of income on average 60% between the beginning and the end of the process. And for sure, if you are talking about poor communities, income generation, new income generation, means also better condition of life, means access to the education, better levels, means access to the health care. Coming to an end, I would like to share with you some of our learnings on working with vulnerable condition women. First, if you really want to transform and to make something different, don't ask people to come to you. Go to them, work together with them, listen to them in their own community where they feel at home. Create collective environments as this one here, or small collective environments, to exchange ideas and difficulties and bring back solutions for everyone. In small spaces, talking to each other, they will find solutions. You don't have to be all the answers. Do not expect that everyone will evolve at the same pace. When we work with groups, with women especially, some of them will start a new business and this business will grow. But some of them will only learn how to raise their voice, on how to fight for their rights. And that's fine. People are different. People have different paces of learning and doing, and it's fine. It's perfect. CSR, corporate social responsibility, needs the company, because if the company have profit, it means investments on CSR. But the companies also needs CSR projects, because customers, we are getting more responsible at our choices. People are willing to buy from companies who are really responsible, who are not pretenders. At the end, the last I would to tell you a message: be the change. as we are talking here since yesterday about big corporates, each one of us can be the change. Educate someone, you can do that. Share your knowledge. Buy from a local business. Promote a woman inclusion today. While we are here at this forum discussing artificial intelligence, there are billions of people outside who doesn't know how to interact with the new technologies. People who even can read, people who doesn't have light, who doesn't have money to buy anything. All these people cannot be left out of the game. If we are talking about a truly responsible economy, everyone has to be included. And to finish, if I have to choose only one word to define future, one word to share with you today, this word would be purpose. Find your purpose and go for it. Purpose will help us to overcome any fears. Purpose will make us stronger. Each one of us have a purpose. Each one wants to be a part of this big responsible revolution. Find your purpose and go for it. And thank you for listening.
Yeah, I thought that was a really fitting way to end talking about purpose. I feel like that's been a very consistent theme that we've seen at this World Forum so far. And I'd like to also invite our next speaker up, and this is Nelisue Masango. Please share a few words with us, Nelisue.
Good day to the House at large. The name is Miss Nelisue Masango, the founder and director of Baron Investments and Females with Finance. Thank you so much for having me today. So when I got the opportunity to speak at the World Forum for Responsible Economy, it made perfect sense. So Baron Investments is a company that focuses on financial literacy training. So when we look at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals for the United Nations, 15 of them actually require finance. That's the biggest thing. Money makes the world go round. We all like money. If you don't like money, tough luck. You need money anyway. We all have jobs. We have businesses. The world functions on money. But the disadvantage is that out of the 15 sustainable goals that we have, we can't really achieve them. Because sometimes it's not about a lack of funding or lack of finance. As entrepreneurs, we tend to focus on lack of funding, and as employees, people who have 9-to-5 jobs, we tend to focus on promotions. So what Baron Investments does is we highlight the importance of personal financial management. Because whether you have R1 million, R1 billion, or R1 trillion, or euros in this case, if you can't handle the bit that you have, what more difference will it make if someone gives you more money? So we did a case study whereby, so I'll use euros as an example. So the case study that we had was someone who earns 20,000 euros versus someone that earns 200,000 euros. Now the difference between the two is that the one that earns 20,000 euros probably drives a certain type of car. Their complaint is, well, I need a promotion. I need to move up the corporate ladder. And the person that has 200,000 euros probably has the exact same problems. The only difference is that they're not driving a Fiat, they're probably driving a Mercedes, or the person that makes 2 million euros is probably driving a Lamborghini. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much money you have or how much money you make. It's about managing your finances correctly. And we tend to see this when it comes to governments and large corporations where there's a mismanagement of funds. So the biggest thing is to encourage people, to encourage employers as well, to teach people and the employees about the importance of basic personal finance and financial literacy training. So as Baron Investments, When it comes to financial literacy, we specialize in derivatives trading, long-term investing, the basics of planning, savings, and budgeting. Because whether someone has an entry-level job or you are part of the executive board, at the end of the day, 75% of all employees are financially stressed. And as much as we speak different languages, we're from different countries, money, when it comes to money, it's the same language. We all have financial issues at the end of the day. You either you don't have enough money or you have too many expenses or responsibilities. Now, the aim of this is to ensure that each and every single individual knows how to handle the bit that they have. So in order to build a responsible economy, every single person has to understand finances. Because imagine putting 10 million euros into the hands of someone that doesn't know how to spend a single euro. So this is very important, especially when we're looking at political leaders and executive board members of very large corporations. So as we grow as Baron Investments, where we provide these training programs, workshops, and seminars, with the shift in technology, digital transformation, we've identified that digital transformation plays a huge role when it comes to education. So on the left-hand side, you get to see one of our training programs that we have. So what we have done, is my heel stuck? All right, so what we have done was to allow clients all over the world to have better access to our training programs and our facilities. We have decided to incorporate technology. What happens if you can't attend the seminar? What happens if you can't attend the workshop? Does it mean that you won't be able to learn? No. This is why all training companies, we encourage them as well, and as a company, we've incorporated technology to accommodate people that are far in terms of distance learning, and the technology that we have allows, it's more interactive. So in as much as we're all in one room here together and we're learning, what happens if you're at home? People get discouraged because sometimes people can't travel, sometimes people have responsibilities, and they don't have time to go to university, to go to a class. Does that mean if you don't have time, if you don't have a form of transportation, does it mean you can't learn? This is why technology is so important in creating a sustainable economy. So at the bottom, we've recently launched some technological equipment. So if you go into our website, www.baroninvestments.co.za, you'll get to see some of the products that we have there to simplify education. Imagine having a conference like this whereby you're encouraging people and promoting entrepreneurship and education, but they can access it from their smartphones. They can access it from their tablets, from their laptops. So in the picture that we have over here, it's one of our technologies that we supply, an e-beam system, whereby you can still continue to have the presentations that you have and the interactions, but people who live far away can also benefit from the interactions. And the biggest part, when it comes to building a responsible economy and technology and education, we tend to forget about people with special needs. We talk about artificial intelligence, mobile apps, we talk about all these great things, but what happens if someone can't see? We forget about those that are partially impaired, people that are blind, people that can't walk, people that can't talk. We have great technology where I can use my iPad with my hands. What about someone who can't use their hands? What about people with cerebral palsy, as an example? What about those people? So we tend to forget the people with special needs behind when we build and talk about responsible economy. So some of the technologies that we do supply allow people with special needs to actually get educated. So in as much as education is for you and me, it's also for the people who don't have the ability, the physical ability and capability to actually use these fancy equipments that we have. And last but not least, we have Females with Finance. Spoke about it briefly yesterday. It's a cause very close to my heart. So as Baron Investments, we have a subsidiary called FeFine, Females with Finance, and we have a girls program that aims to encourage and promote women independence. And we target girls between the ages of 13 and 18 because in South Africa, we have a very high rate of teenage pregnancy. And by no means am I saying that if you're a teenage mom, you're not going to succeed. You will. But how about giving these young girls the option to have a better life? How about when it comes to education, we tend to have workshops and write down on pieces of paper, okay, focus on school, leave boys, be successful. Don't fall pregnant. But how about putting that into an actual reality? So what we've incorporated, which we don't have on our slides, unfortunately, but we do have on our website, we have the babies. Now, telling a 15-year-old not to fall pregnant is probably a difficult thing. They'll say, yes, I'll stay away from boys, I won't fall pregnant. But imagine giving a 15-year-old an actual doll, a doll that acts like a child. So the technology that we've incorporated in this training program, so the training program is called Brains and Books Before Babies and Boys, to try and keep our young girls in school, to encourage them to be financially independent, and to also promote entrepreneurship. These little babies that we have in our training program, it's linked to a bracelet. And every time the child cries, every time, it acts just like a normal human being. So what that does, it creates a reality whereby these young girls understand the depth of what motherhood is about. So, I mean, I'm 25, I'm not a mother yet, but I can only imagine what it's like, and I have a lot of respect for women who have careers, you're an entrepreneur, and you're a mother. Plus, your advantage would be you have a credit score, you have financial stability. Now, imagine a 15-year-old who doesn't have a good credit score, they don't have a job, they don't have a business, they don't have anything. What sort of life will they give their child? So the biggest thing when it comes to creating a sustainable economy is two things. Let's not forget the people with special needs. Let's create and develop technologies and systems that allow them to maneuver in our normal day-to-day lives. And secondly, let's not forget our young girls, because our young girls are the future. It's very difficult to be a very young girl in South Africa and in the world. Because of social media, these young girls are experiencing problems that we didn't quite face. So they might not get to the levels that we're at. So I encourage all the women, let's not just be physical examples, but let's also create programs as well. And I encourage bigger corporations to come on board to support these programs to ensure that our young girls don't fall victim to the problems that we have over here. And in closing, I'd just like to mention one of my favorite Chinese proverbs, that's that's our foundation. So in as much as you can give someone money, they'll come back the next day. It's not about throwing money out as big companies or as government. The Chinese proverb says, give a man fish and you feed him for a day. Teach him how to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. So education is extremely important, and to our advantage, integrating that with technology makes it much easier and accessible to people around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelisa. Yeah, that last program that she ended with, really innovative. Perhaps we can talk more about that in the Q&A here. It's a pleasure to introduce our next speaker, and that's Luvuyo Rani. Luvuyo, please come and talk to us here.
Thank you so much. It's really an honor and a privilege for me to come and speak. I think what I will do firstly is to play just a 2-minute video, and then from there, and I'll probably take 10 minutes to present in terms of what we do. Yeah, we can play with the video first.
Luvuyo Rani, nominated by JCI South Africa for his work in the category of business, economic, and/or entrepreneurial accomplishment. Growing up in a small town in South Africa, Luvuyo Rani received an education in technical skills and business administration. After teaching accounting and entrepreneurship at a high school level, Rani decided to change his career path and focus on spreading access to technology in his rural hometown. He started by opening an internet cafe that also offered computer training and IT support for local citizens. Rani believes that computers and the internet offer people the priceless power of education and information. Expanding his services from the internet cafe to a full-scale business, Ronnie and his brother started Silulo Yulutho Technologies, selling refurbished computers, providing IT training, and even assisting to write business profiles and plans for local businesses. His work addresses the IT skill gap faced in his community with a specific goal to reduce unemployment. In South Africa, the unemployment rate is 25%. But the smaller townships, like Ronnie's, have a 50% unemployment rate, which especially affects youth. Providing a solution to this challenge, Ronnie established a school that provides computer training to the public that is open 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. The school has now been open for 7 years, and more than 20,000 students have completed this 6-month training program. Upon graduation, more than 50% of students have found employment. Ronnie places a high value on his services rather than his profit and provides payment plans for his programs, making them available to disadvantaged communities. His business and education programs continue to empower people to learn new skills and use them for increased communication, connection, and employment. Responding to this important social need, Ronnie has opened the door to the world of technology for people and communities across South Africa. His ultimate dream is to expand his services beyond South Africa and provide technology solutions while inspiring entrepreneurship across all African countries.
Yeah, well, it's been a 13-year journey. I used to be a teacher. I think teaching, it's a noble job. And I think teaching, it's a kind of a profession that is able to mold people like myself. In that 13 years, I started this business in the boot of a car. I used to drive a 2-door Corsa Light, selling refurbished computers to schools. And people, they were saying to me, I'm mad. Others are saying to me, I'm stealing computers and sending back to the school. But I went to every school selling this, and I was focusing on teachers from the computers. And I realized that teachers, because of the new curriculum, they were struggling to use computers. And I started seeing that I need to have internet cafe. So we opened internet cafe 2 years, running in the boot of a car, 2 years internet cafe. It took us 5 years to get the model. And the model was more about training. Because once we train individual, they will find employment, they start their businesses, they're able to make a difference in their home. Currently now, with the story, I'm not sure these pictures are coming, I think this is yours. So currently, we have this basic 6 months course that we have. So student comes 2 hours a day, from Monday to Friday. We open Monday to Sunday. So if you're working, you can come in over the weekend or come in the evening. So we kind of cater for everyone. I mean, in terms of, so the guys who are working in the hospitality, they will come in the evening, they will come and able to do the training. We've trained 31,000, and 80% of those students that are coming to us are women that are coming to us, and 50% of the student that comes, they will find employment, and 70% of that number is young people that are coming in, and we also now offer advanced courses like digital marketing, office admin, A+, graphic design, as part of the course that able to. And the beauty, we build these schools closer to where they are. So people walk in and access the training that, and the training is accredited by MIT CETA, it's level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. So it's more, recognized training. We also realize, after able to realize that we have this one-stop center, from a training, access, internet cafe, we also see an opportunity for entrepreneurship now. We've got about 42 centers in South Africa, in 3 provinces, and 19 of them are owned by franchise. And 5 of those 19 are owned by former staff members. So they will come in, they will be a student, we employ them, they will grow, they will be a center manager. After that, they will become owner, where we go to funders looking for funding to enable the staff members to get opportunity to own part of this, and it's part of our values in terms of ownership. I think the impact that we do, it's kind of bridge digital divide. 10 years back, people used to work 30 kilometers or go to town to access. So now they walk in and get the access, and that kind of a way that we are seeing it. And I think the future, what we see there, we see us in every town in South Africa, in fact, where connectivity becomes a thing of the past. And where people now are talking about fourth industrial revolution, in Africa, we probably are talking about second or third industrial revolution, because access, connectivity, and skill are three key important enables people to be a part of the digital world. We bring this service to the rural areas now. We're busy now putting small centers now that people in the rural areas can able to access it and able to connect. And we develop entrepreneurs in the sense that there are guys now who, not only from our staff members, come able to get the model and use it and connect it in the areas. More than anything, I think the model now around the education is to empower people, is to make sure that they connect, is make sure that they're part of the digital world. And in this journey of the 13 years, I think it's realized that the power of education in changing the mind, in changing people. And I think we could realize that if we could take this model from South Africa, we could put it in Zimbabwe, put it in Lesotho, and put it in Kenya, that could be put in around the world, where people in areas that they don't have any infrastructure, they can be able to connect. Thank you so much.
And yeah, the final speaker that we have here is Bibi, Bibi Productions.
Thank you. Honorable moderator, speaker, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's my pleasure and honor to be here. I'm so excited, but a bit nervous because all these very well-spoken speaker. I haven't prepared much, but I will tell you something about the development goal. The 230 Agenda for Sustainable Development has 13 goals, transforming our world. These are very important issues, such as poverty, hunger, good health, quality education, which is very close to my heart. But I will speak to you not theoretical, but practical aspect, because all my work is with the hand. And you all know I come from Bangladesh. We are talking about women. Bangladesh has last 30 years, more than 30 years, woman prime minister. Last 5 years, we have prime minister woman, we have a speaker woman, first opposition leader woman, second opposition leader woman. So 4 people, the top level of Bangladesh. But we have more than 50% women. But I would like to talk about my work. I work mainly with the rural area, people who do things with the hand. And my 99.9% time I spend in the villages. Wherever I work in Bangladesh, India, other Central Asia, Africa, West Africa, Latin America. But I realized when I'm going to talk about Bangladesh, I realized, oh, I forgot. There is a video you can watch. I think it's my work in Bangladesh, but without any sound. Just give you a little bit of idea who I work with. You can start the video. So I realized that people who are working, craftspeople, artisans who work in the with their hand, they have problems, lack of education, basic education. Because when they want to sell something, they cannot read and write. That is in everywhere. Though in Bangladesh we have primary education is free and special education system for the girls. But we have 6 seasons. Though the schooling is free, you know, you have 4 seasons in Europe, we have 6 seasons. So in the monsoon season, rainy season, you need an umbrella, you need a shoes, you need a bag to carry book. These are not given. Education is free, maybe books are free. But I made the village people understand it's so important you give your children to education. When they start to send their children to education, before, I went back 20 years ago, before they used to have 5, 6 children, when they start sending their children to school, they realize they are not working 5, 6 hours, they are going to school. They cut down their family. Now for last 6, 7 years, they have maximum 2 or 3 children. They realize children going to school, not working, is too much money to spend. You know, when they come back from school, they need to eat and things. So health and education, which I am trying to take care, giving them work. Anyone, any craftspeople who pass the poverty margin, they don't have to think about their home and food. They are sending their children to school, which is so important. And one very important issue I wanted to talk, which is recently I'm working with 2 very important projects, which I didn't want to do it because I'm not an NGO. My work is all self-funded and something which I dreamt from my childhood, so I don't sell my dream. So I've been asked in India, West Bengal government, to come and work for a child project, child trafficking project, girl child trafficking. So I said, no, I'm already traveling, I cannot do this. When I went there, I saw the girls age between 5 to 20, all beautiful. Can you imagine we are talking about high technology, high thing. We are living in 21st century. We are so inhuman. We are selling our girls for less than $100. So what was the problem? Today, the whole thing is for education. I realized when the girls are all like in SAARC countries, they go to India because they think they will be better off. They don't have a passport. They don't have anything, documents. So I told them, if you had a little bit of education, you knew crossing a border, you need a paper. You see, this is the main problem. They don't know they're in another country. They just thought they crossed the border, they're part of Bangladesh or part of Nepal came, and they could work without any kind of official paper. And when they are caught, they put in a home because they are not convicted. They are without any identification. So this is something hurt me that education is so important. You know, sometimes when I work in the villages, I make sure the families understand the basic education to read and write, which is so important that you would know what you are signing, you would know what is that. And I've been working on it in every country where I go. I make sure that education, please give a little bit of education. Also for the girls, when they know their soul, they will understand what's happening. And another project, I just did it. I thought it's happening in so-called in third world countries or underdeveloped, but I just come back from UK. And it is a big issue of acid. You know, I did a program in Asia, acid survivors. Could you imagine that we are throwing acids, you know? And this is a big, big issue. That is also, I think, lack of education, lack of things. And I wanted to tell you that it is to work with any countries I work. If you think about Bangladesh, what you think about a piece of fabric called muslin during the British time, during the Mughal period, which went to a little matchbox. And we made in that time a history with a fabric, magical fabric. And today, they are below poverty level. Why? Because today is many things happen, education, new technology. We want to make it digital world. Bangladesh is doing digital Bangladesh. but you have to make them a basic education. That is a problem everywhere, and I want to tell you that it's so, so important. It's the backbone of any nation to have a basic education, and it's a right for everyone. Recently, this year, joy of my life, first time educated with a weaver's family. The girl finished the primary education. I made her go to secondary education, and she wanted to be a doctor, first generation education. So this is changing, but we have to give them opportunities, give their family to have a sustainable development through their work, because today we are having all natural, organic food and organic. But please support the organic fabric, organic work, because what we do by hand is all organic, all natural, no synthetic. Actually, my work, I don't use any synthetic work, all natural. And give them confidence. Don't take away their human dignity. Anywhere in the world, you will see where they will go. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Aren't these amazing stories that we have from around the world and a real diversity of approaches? I wanted to take a few minutes to ask you some questions, and we have an hour here, and what we really want to do is get you asking questions and getting responses to your questions as well. So think of what you'd like those questions to be, but since I'm holding the microphone, I get to be the first. And I'd like to start with you, Leda. A big theme that I'm hearing coming from the talks that have taken place at this conference so far, and certainly here in the context of the development goals, is a focus on reaching people with very little education, but also reaching to women first. That the approach of really empowering young women is an important part of the progress. I wonder, have you come across this this perspective from some who say, why focus on women? Why not, all people, men as well? And, why single out a particular gender? How have you responded to that, and why do you feel it's so effective to have that focus?
Okay, thank you, Lior. This is a question that we face almost every day or every week. The society evolution, it was previously a patriarchal society. In the beginning, women couldn't vote. Women could work outside home. And nowadays it's different. In different countries, the situation is different. But mainly on the countries under development yet, the women is still treated as a second class. For example, in Brazil, for the first time, 8 years ago, we had a woman as a president on the power. At our companies, only 3% of the board, executive board, are composed by women, 3%. Even if we are accessing the college today, the universities, the women are getting access. But in the world of work, things still are different. If we have the same jobs, me and you, for sure in Brazil, you will get a higher salary only because you are a man. I cannot explain how does it work, but I read some time ago one experience that they made, I think, on the UK, I think. That was a test, an audition to an orchestra. They made a test, and the judges choose 80% men men. They are better artists. They are better musicians. Then they make again the test, the audition, a blind audition with cover, and they choose exchange to 8% women. You know, when they see it's a woman, they have a bias, maybe unconscious bias, and treat different. And when we work with women, we face, especially with the not so young women about 40 or 50 years, they used to ask, they get jealousy because she is not available all the time as she was before. Before she was at home all the time, making food and taking care of the house and taking care of the kids. And now she's working. How is it? She have to have meetings with the customers. She's getting their own money, and it's difficult because if I have money, I can say no to you. If you want to abuse, but I don't have the money, maybe I have to stay. If I have my money, it will be different. And the way that we are finding a kind of solution to do that is to invite men to take part of the activities, to make them feel included. You cannot set men apart. We are fighting for equality, not for supremacy of women, but equality. And we had once one story that a group of women was going to another city to participate in a fair to sell their products. And then when the vehicle came to take the group, the women, the man, one of husband, just came running, put himself in front of the vehicle and said, "Only over my dead body. She's not going." And she was ready to stay. Okay, I cannot go. But all the group, and this is the importance of working in collective, all the group said, no, you should go. And they invited him to go together. He went. It was strange at the first time, but then she gained her confidence, her trust, his trust. And on the next time, she was allowed to go. I think the best way is to include, don't set apart. Invite men to take part of the process, to discuss together, to support them, and to join to the movement.
Thank you for that. How about some of the others? Have you experienced something similar where you found some success or alleviating some barriers related to this gender difference?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, if I can talk about my story, it's more, I mean, we employ about 220 full staff members, 60% are women. And so you could see they're taking over the centers, they are running the centers, and you could see those centers in terms of how they perform. But also, I mean, it's also in kind of a situation where every time people ask me that question, why you have more students, which is a woman in a class? And most is because women wants to work in the office space and you still find men working in the corners and hoping that they will probably do bricklaying, plastering, and painting. And you still find that men, they are not being part coming in numbers. So it's something that even from a country point of South Africa, there's much more promotion of women and there's much more emphasis in terms of the women empowerment. And that gives much more women around that. And it's something that we have to look at in terms of longer run, in terms of a ball child, how that ball child has grown in that environment. But I see and I could support it in terms of it's important and it's where I could see the value that they are saying that once you empower women, you empower a village. And I could see a testimony around that.
Wonderful. Did you want to add something, Melissa?
I mean, above all else, as a millennial, so life is very different as a millennial post-apartheid in South Africa. But it's very important for us to, as women as well, encourage one another. Because sometimes we tend to bring each other down, and that just defeats the whole purpose of women empowerment and promoting gender equality. So I just encourage all women to continue, put race aside, put age aside. Women have the same story, we have the same issues, and above all else, we can help each other in really similar ways. So, and it's really nice for men. I invite men as well to encourage gender equality in the workplace, especially different industries like IT, engineering, and science. Those are really, and finance are also male-dominated industries. So I invite men to open the doors for the women, to encourage women to go into these industries and allow us to succeed. And when women are in these big positions and top executive positions, they should also open doors for the younger women as well. So let's not leave anyone behind, because at the end of the day, the only way we can develop or come anywhere near a responsible and sustainable economy is if we work together, putting gender, putting race, and putting age aside.
Thank you.
Thank you. My work, because as I told you, I work with the artisan, and I want to talk about weavers. You know, Bangladesh was very famous for handloom. With the weavers, of course, when you give a work to when you order a handloom fabric, you are supporting the whole family, where whole family is involved. But the woman, they get up in the morning, they might make the food, send the children in the school, but they are doing the spinning. I would like to tell you, today we are talking about woman empowerment and woman. If you wear a handloom fabric, anything made by hand, spinning is the first point. So first thing, the thread, you know, Gandhiji's spinning wheel, khadi, is done by a woman. So first work is done by a woman. Maybe it's 8, 9 steps. When it's come to the loom, maybe man is doing it. Certain stage is woman is doing it. But first work, I know in West Africa, the spinning wheel is different now. With all cycle, they are doing man. But in Asia, Bangladesh, India, all women. The first piece, thread, is made by the woman. So, of course, if you go in agriculture in our country, it's half of the work. Maybe the new machine and everything, when the seeds, they're throwing all women. So it's half of the work is done by the woman. But my thing, I make sure women get the equal price. That's very, very, very important, and people respect that. Thank you.
Bibi, since you already have the microphone, I'd like to also ask you another important question. Your work is a beautiful work that you're doing with artisans and really, I think, getting the fashion industry to move more towards the artisan.
Can I just interrupt you before you ask him?
Yeah.
I want to tell you, because you know my background is fashion. I came to Europe to study. I went to London. I am a fellow from London Art University. But I don't know what you think of fashion. Fashion for me is a culture. Maybe you go to Asia, people are wearing suits and everything, but you can see that touch of Asia, that touch of Bengali, that touch of India, that touch. And it's a necessity. Why I want to tell you, and you know my fashion for development is now one of the millennium goal in UN thing. That is, yes. I started with UNESCO with Federico Mayor supporting me and Queen of Spain in '96. Why? It's a necessity. Like, I jump into the plane. I came here. They put me in a hotel. I had breakfast to eat. I came the most prestigious seminar, but I couldn't come naked. I need a piece of cloth to cover myself. That is necessity. I can stay without food for 5 days, but without piece of cloth, no. So fashion is not what brand you are making. Fashion is linked with development. I'm so happy that I was stopped in London a few days ago, and one economics student from London School of Economics, and she said he recognized me. He said, Bibi, madam, you know that my thesis is on you, fashion for development. I never studied economics. I go to World Economic Forum in 3. So fashion is not a brand. Fashion is linked with development. Now you continue.
I like that very much. And I find your perspective to be very inspiring. At the same time, I think as a consumer and all of us who are consumers, And like you say, it's a part of our everyday world. You might skip a meal, but chances are you're wearing something. And so, as consumers of fashion, as we all are, how can we empower ourselves so that we're voting with the dollars that we spend and helping the unsustainable fast fashion movement to move more towards what you're describing in terms of your philosophy and the kind of work that you're doing with artisans?
You know, it's very difficult also for people to understand because I was trained by the European. I went to a very good college. My work is in the archive. And why I went back and give my support to these people who make things by hand. But I want to tell you also this bit, I didn't want to talk. If I had one single drop of success in my career, I surprised the world. I come from Bangladesh. People think people are starving, they are dying. But Bengali culture, we have Tagore, you know, first Nobel Prize winner, Rabindranath Tagore. We have so many things. So I went back to do my dream. And, you know, people do ask me, Bangladesh has so many garment industry, they are number 2 in the world. Why you are doing this thing, which is natural? But you see, the movement they made about the food, now we think 3 times whether we are going this coffee, which is vegetarian, or the coffee is well-grown, or the chemical with the tea, with the fruits. But don't you want to wear things which is touch your skin, which is not chemical, which is bad azo use? You know, you have to think, and you have to know where this money, you know. I come from the 2nd largest garment industry, all these brand, you know, T-shirts and things. I think more than 50% made in Bangladesh. But you know, the price they are selling and giving them, but who are exploiting them? We educated people. Please, because the cheap labor, we cannot say anything as a country because that is our biggest foreign earning money. But you have to be aware, now you want to go and buy an apple. When you see a chemical one, you say that is maybe €1. You rather buy €2 because you think you are eating better thing. Also, I think our conscience has to be clear. There are many, many chemicals which is bad for your skin. You can have cancer and many other things. I think if you know what you want, you're conscious and clean, just instead of buying 10 things, buy 5, which is better for your health. Thank you. Am I clear?
Yeah, I think, yeah. I thought that was a really interesting point. You're talking about the local food movement and you know, the idea that there's a fair trade coffee product. Maybe what we need is ethical clothing product, you know, that's available at the fashion outlets and point of sale. Nelisue, I wanted to ask you for your thoughts on this. When I look at the Sustainable Development Goals, one thing that I see that is really inspiring to me is a declaration of a change that is different than what I've seen in other international protocols. The idea that in the past, perhaps there was this idea that international agreements were agreements between rich countries and poor countries about wealth distribution from a wealthy nation to another nation. The idea that perhaps some countries should be guilted into doing more development work to help the poor. But the Sustainable Development Goals, and frankly, all of the examples that you've talked about here today are very empowering. It's not about distributing wealth, it's about empowering people to do things for themselves. I wanted to get your thoughts. Is that a significant factor that enables you to connect to the Sustainable Development Goals from this idea of educating people at the point where you're doing that?
100%. So when it comes to the finance industry and when it comes to money, people have a very narrow-minded perspective on money. It's just a case of, well, money, if we move it from that country to this country, or from this group of people to this group of people, the problems are then solved. And especially in Africa, we're looking at issues with the natives who feel like wealth needs to be redistributed or channeled back to the original people from Africa. But when you look deeper into it, my question is, if we were to give, and inverted commas, Luvuyo will know, the land back. You know, we say give the land back, but it's actually just moving the economy from one race to another. That's not the actual issue. The issue is, are we educated enough as people who are disadvantaged? Are we educated enough to be able to move the economy forward to the next level? Because if the economy is currently on level 5 and it's owned by somebody else, or whatever the case is, won't go into politics, but it's not about moving from level 5 to you to level 5 to me. It's about working together to move it to level 10. So that's the issue when it comes, and social media tends to play a very negative role in this, because people come with very perverted opinions, and sometimes they take that as fact. But when you look at the United Nations goals, the 17 sustainable goals for development, it's very important to understand that education is a language to everyone. And education is not a formal qualification. There's a misconception when it comes to that. All over the world, you look at a lot of students in high debt, a lot of debt, because they take out student loans, because they want to get degrees, diplomas, and honors and masters, etc. And by no means am I saying that's not right. Having a qualification is important, but that's not the only form of education. And with how technology is moving, we've got search engines, we've got libraries, we've got numerous resources in 2017 that we didn't have 15, 20, 30 years ago. So let's not just rely on universities for qualifications. Let's also, as in our communities and societies, let's encourage education outside of a qualification. You can go to MIT for 4 years and get an IT qualification. It doesn't mean that you're educated. You're not educated in society. You're not educated with personal finance. So education is not a destination. It's a journey. It's a lifelong thing. Don't ever feel like just because you have a PhD, you're more educated than anybody else and you know a lot. It's not about that. We learn from each other, different races, different countries as well. So education, we need to have the mentality of understanding that education in all forms, fashion, finance, IT, gender equality, education is a lifelong thing. So we need to also encourage that and promote it as well.
Yeah, excellent. And yeah. I just wanted to invite you to clarify, when you talked about level 5 to level 10, are you talking about the level of that's specific in South Africa? Is that
no, so not specific to South Africa. It's just an example. If the economy or GDP is at a level 5, instead of moving the wealth or distributing it, how about taking the economy as a whole from a level 5 to a level 10 in terms of progression? Excellent.
And one other thing, when you're talking to people about investing, what are you finding is how do you move people from thinking investing is scary or a risk to an opportunity? What are you hearing from people, and how are you able to create that change?
The biggest misconception, when it comes to investing is that people think that investing is reserved for the wealthy. But people are wealthy because they invest. And on average, a wealthy person has a minimum of 7 different streams of income. So being an entrepreneur is just one. Even though you have 5, 6, 7 businesses, it's still one form of income. So people become very intimidated because when you look at banks and bigger financial institutions, the jargon that they use intimidates people. And as a result, people tend to just rely on a financial advisor or financial consultant. You walk in with 100,000 euros and say, well, you know, because you studied finance, you can handle my money for me, and leave it there. Not understanding that no one knows how hard you work for your money than you do. So this is why it's so important for you to keep a track of your finances, of your investments, of your monthly budgets as well. You don't want to overspend. You want to ensure, and with how the economy is globally, there's a bit of a, things aren't looking as great as they should be, but above all else, we shouldn't be chasing a promotion, a higher paycheck, more business. What we should learn is how to handle the money that we have. Because if you can't handle 20,000 euros, trust me, you'll never see 2 million euros. Because it's not about adding a zero on the right-hand side of your bank balance. It's about using what you have, because a little goes a long way. And this is a mentality that people need to have. Let me use what I have. Let me not point into the distance and say, you know, if I had an iPad, and if I came from Europe, or if I had these parents, or if I went to MIT or Harvard, maybe I would be in a better position. No, it's about using the resources that you have, because whether you like to believe it or not, everyone is put in a situation in life whereby you are given the resources. They might not be the same as yours or BB's as well, but we're all equipped with the things we need to better our lives and better the community as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Luvuyo, I wanted to invite you to tell us a little bit more about the scalability of what you're doing, because it seems interesting to me. Yesterday, for those of you who were in the room, we saw a number of people working for B Corps, and so clearly social entrepreneurs who are trying to expand their movement beyond their startup situation. But you've got an interesting model that's actually has the ability to scale quickly. Is that correct in assuming that?
Yeah, no, I think it's correctly in the sense that you need those highly social entrepreneurs who has highly impact, which is scalable in the sense that it can touch as many people in that regard. And I think from our model, I mean, like we started with sender-owned, and then we moved to a franchise-owned, and then now it becomes a situation where we scale it through that kind of, and that allows people from different towns, and also assist us in terms of getting local context, in the sense that, I mean, once we have a local entrepreneur who have our model and using it, we're also benefiting in the understanding what is, because, I mean, like, as part of South Africa, each province is different. So your solution cannot be able to assist in every province. So you need someone who understands the dynamics, understand the areas, and bring value in the businesses. And even if we want to go to Lesotho, definitely we're not able to take what we have, we're able to take what we're looking for. And I think what is missing I think it's more to look at these businesses that are more scalable and say, how can we support these businesses growing in a bigger way so that it can become an Africa solution or a world solution? Because this is where I think we already proven that you can start one thing, you build, multiply, and then run it, and then becomes like a solution that addresses connectivity, access, skill, and entrepreneurship. And that way, you assist the community, you grow the entrepreneur, also you bring the connectivity, the impact, it becomes a way. So I think this is where I feel strong that even for us, the bigger picture, within 5 years, we want to have 500 stores in South Africa, even before you go to Africa. So the scope and the space is huge. And I think we are in the very interesting times around technology in our country.
Yeah, so exciting. So if you're talking about 500 outlets in South Africa and then expanding beyond that, what's the barrier? Is it money? And how? If you had a pile of money, what would you do with it tomorrow?
Well, I mean, like it's one, because the model is kind of different with the model. The model is empower local entrepreneurs. So funding becomes a key hindrance for these local entrepreneurs to access to money, because for the setup cost of the infrastructure, it needs money. So the funding can come in. So we want funding. But also funding can come in terms of, for us, to scale quicker, because the model is proven. We've built systems, built processes, we've got a strong brand, and everyone wants kind of a CSM solution. So we could look at it in two ways, in terms of how can we grow other Luvuyos to Africa through this model that can scale in this kind of model.
Exciting, great. And maybe I'll just, before we turn it over, ask the same thing to some of the other speakers here. If we wanted to support what you're doing, if we wanted to invest in it or help to open doors and connect you with others, what would that look like for you? What barriers are you trying to alleviate that perhaps we could be helping you with? Niliswe.
Definitely, it would be with our Young Girls program, the FIFINE Girls. It's not just a program for young girls in South Africa. It's a program that can be spread out throughout the whole of Africa, the whole world, because, I mean, every country has young girls at the end of the day. They are the future. So this is why it's so important to form partnerships and strategic alliances with companies or organizations that would like to come on board with these programs that we have, so we can influence more girls. So we just finished a program with 15 girls in South Africa, but how many other young girls are there in the rest of the world? So because this is funded by my business, it's limited in terms of growth. So in order for us to reach young girls in Europe, in South America, in North America, and the rest of Africa, we'd really like to invite other organizations and companies to come on board to roll out these programs with females with finance to ensure that young girls don't fall victim to teenage pregnancy and they can learn to be self-sufficient and financially independent.
Great.
May I?
Yes.
As Nelly said, I think for us in special, the big challenge is to start earlier the work. Because when we work with women that has already a history of exclusion, like we do nowadays, we have to care of the current generation, not only the next generations, but they have already a history of not education, not access, and we have to correct something. If we could start earlier, talking to the girls since the school, when they are younger, talking about pregnancy, talking about how important it is to get education, things would be different, would be easier. Then I think the message is, for everyone there is a role on it. A company can came on board and help on this and put money and put resources, but everyone can be a volunteer, for example, sharing their knowledge. And also, one thing that is coming to me is sometimes we think about business. For example, we help small business to grow. But what does it mean to be successful? We are talking nowadays about wellness, about happiness. And no, not everyone we want to be a big company and have employees and makes lots of money. It doesn't mean to be fine. Then we have to understand communities' desires and respect that and help them to be what they want to be. And about education, about knowledge, I was thinking about what Bibi said. There are different types of knowledge. There are no most important knowledge. For example, I can know how to use a computer very good. And Nelly knows about finance as no one else here. But Bibi knows about fashion and about working with hands in a way that I will never be able to. Then we have to understand that there are different knowledges, and we have to respect the community's knowledge. Nowadays we are talking lots about medicines and very advanced laboratories, for example, but we have some places where the indigenous communities knows lots about herbs and about medicines who really works without collateral effects for us. I think we have to to consider this on respecting the knowledge of each community and start as early as we can to help them to access education. That is the key.
Thank you. And Bibi.
Thank you. First of all, I thank you because I can see many young generations are here. I think young generation are the future of the world, wherever they are, from Asia, Africa, or Europe. Secondly, I would like to say, you know, for me, it's such a change. I mean, such a distinguished speakers and all of you. When you have a conference like this, it's very important. You have the follow-up. It shouldn't just these. You know, sometimes I feel I get invited. I say, whether I want to go, what's the point? Everyone is educated. I'm speaking in front of the educated people. But my message is, if you go through it, it's all my tribute, my salute, my everything, respect for the craftspeople of the world. I am a spokesperson. I'm a UNESCO ambassador for that. I want them to reach, them to know that I'm speaking in such an important, but I'm giving them my tribute. If I'm in front of you, I want to tell all of you, it's not for my face, for my work. Invisibly supporting me, you're supporting all the craftspeople in the world. They are invisibly with me. So that is very, very important. And I would like all of you, because I know I come from Bangladesh. People think Bangladesh is all political problem, this, that. Beside that, if you think so many beautiful things, you know, you should respect all of our human dignity. That is what I have done in my work. And today, you know, I'm working all over the world. And I'm loved by we have 160 million people. I'm loved by the 60% of the nation. I don't need private people to take me around. No one will do anything. This is my mental satisfaction. I haven't made money, but that is take long time. I will make money to convince all of you. But the mental satisfaction is here. Give us a chance. What you see, the things coming for all these countries, either they're in the street or a very high-level antique shop. I want the middle market. That is what a sustainable market, breadth line. That is what you have to do. The garment industry, those mass production, you buy T-shirts and thing, you go, Zara and all look made in Bangladesh. But give us the chance to do that with all craft. We can't do it. We have the human resources. Thank you.
Yeah, we can do it. Guillaume, I'd like your help, and I'd like to invite members of the audience to ask questions, and I do see a hand up already. Did you have your hand up there, sir? No? Okay. But some questions for our speakers. Just put your hand up. Merci. Yeah, we covered it all. Yeah. Yeah, but please feel free to, if you do have a burning question, we love to get. Oh, we have a question here. Yes. Can we get the microphone over there, Gary? Just over. Oh, do you?
Thank you for your speeches. My question is, because I guess from my point of view, I imagine that the situation is very different from one country to another. And with regards to the access to education and who pays for education, it's the big question. Like maybe in some countries, the question is more, is it private privately paid? Is it one individual that should pay for its education, or is it the public institutions that shall do it? And I'd like to know, like, from your experience, well, who pays for the education that you try to provide?
Yeah, that's a great question.
May I respond? In Brazil, when we are talking about formal education, there are two ways. Some part of the education is provided by government, and we have high-level taxes all over the products that we produce and sell. And usually, the basic education provided by government is not fine. People are not ready to access college from this education, for example. And we have private schools where people have to pay to go in. It's very expensive. And when we are talking about universities at colleges, then the government brings very good institutions. We know that public institutions are better than private institutions when we talk about university. You can have two options: by the government, usually is not so good, or private that you have to pay for.
Well, in South Africa, I mean, like it's I think biggest budget has been spent around education. I mean, the uptake, they will have probably 1 million grade 1. By the time they do grade 12, they have half of it on the system. Others are kind of falling in the system. But the tertiary level, I mean, like universities and FET college, probably they would take about 40%. So 60% of the students that graduate, I mean, from high school, they could not able to be absorbed by the market. They are in a space where they cannot find employment. And also with the kind of current employment situation where we are sitting at 27% of unemployment, and it adds in that kind of situation. And then you've got those dropouts that grade, I mean, they've left before matric. And you find a situation now, education becomes a key where you need to have a private sector that are able to assist in that regard, because you could see that the current system of the government is failing, and the education system is not able to address the need of societal issues. And that's why now private and colleges are needed and able to address that skill gap that needed for many young people so that they can be able to find employment, start their life, and do better in terms of their life.
Does that answer your question somewhat? Yeah.
Yeah, about the general situation of the country, yeah. I'm wondering, like, because there's education to find a job, and then there's education just to be able to learn, and then to learn by yourself how to create your own work, maybe. Can be very different from one situation to another. So I was wondering as well, on top of your context, on the context in your country, how does it work in your project? Like, in your own project, how do you handle the access to education issue?
Yeah.
Okay. Usually our schools in Brazil doesn't teach about entrepreneur, for example. They doesn't teach on how to manage finances. There is a gap. And especially when we work with law schooling people, we have to get back and start. We have a methodology that works together since the base. For example, we are talking about finances, people who never went to class about finances. Then we cannot go with sheets and with computers. We have to take them with a pen and, how is the name?
Paper.
A paper, yes, like a paper, and teach them how to keep tracking of the expenses, of the money that they earn when they sell, and do it together day by day, and teaching them how to keep tracking of the finances. But there is a gap. Yesterday, I think we are talking here about how the university, how the schools are sometimes separated of the real life. We talk about many issues, many academics, many studies, but when we talk about business, about well-being, about how to manage finance, there is a lack of. And we have to have more real experiences. In our project, challenge is to bring them to the real life. For example, we are teaching on how to put the right price on the product that they are producing. Then we used to take together the thing that you use to measure the not, for example, if you want to know how much is the weight of something. A scale. Yes. We have workshops, we put a scale and help them to use this scale to make measures and how much it will cost, for example. But there is a lack of this at universities, at these schools. That's a point to be developed. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think I look at it in three ways in terms of the problem around that. There's one academic one where you go to school and get the academic one. But there's a second one, which is the biggest one, probably become the global problems. Soft skill, which is the power skill around resilience, confidence, work in the teamwork. Those are kind of skills that I don't think so we're able to train and teach them at school. And the third one, it's you ask about the entrepreneurship. It's about role modeling, storytelling. People become inspired. I think with Nelly, in terms of from a country point of view, we are the first generation to come up. So there's so much on our stake in terms of many young people are looking at us, and we need more role models so that many young people can see the possibility, so they can be inspired, so they can emulate and see themselves, they can come in. So there's one part of the education, but also I think the soft one is the powerful one that we have to look at it and able to make sure that we groom next generation of good leaders.
Sorry, just to add on that as well, because you mentioned financing these programs. So our government, there's two types of education. The formal education from first grade till matric or 12th grade. Then, of course, certain schools in more impoverished areas, the government funds that. So you can go from first grade all the way to matric or the 12th grade, and you don't have to pay for education. And then, of course, you have your normal public schools, where most of us went to as well, middle class. Your parents pay for that, of course. And then if you come from a more privileged family and you want to go to a better school, like a private school, of course it's more expensive. So our universities work the same way, whereby if you do have finance at home, you can go to university. If not, the government has provided a scheme called NSFAS, whereby they give out student loans. So it's not your traditional student loans from the bank, but it's specifically targeting people from impoverished areas who don't have parents. You only have one source of income, and it puts them through school from first year all the way up to even a master's. And only when you get a formal job do you then pay that money back off throughout a couple of years. And then when it comes to skills, so not your academic education, but what Luvuyo and I do, skills development, things that are required in corporations, the government as well. They issue out contracts, we call them tenders in our country, whereby every department, so it's different departments as well, and they have a budget on an annual basis. So, for example, if it's IT, if they feel like they need more people to learn the new skills of IT, and I know there's different languages and new equipment, they then put out a contract to say, okay, 12th graders, we want them to learn the basics of hardware and software. And then companies such as Luvuyo's companies will then put out bids to say, listen, we can train these people. And then, of course, the government and private sectors then pay for that funding or pay for the education for the people. And then our institutions train them. So our government and our private sector play a very big role in terms of post-academic education, in terms of skills development. But they rely on institutions and companies like myself and Luvuyo. So I specialize in finance, he specializes in IT. They rely on such companies to allow or to train the people in terms of skills development that they can use in the real world. Does that help?
Other questions? You have one up there.
Hi. My question is, how do you motivate and encourage people to take part in your program?
For us, what we've done is to storytelling. So if one of our students or some of students that are able to go through a program and then they find employment, we take that student, we went them down with a local radio station, or we wrote an article and able to showcase in the social media and talk about it. So part of that success, we share about it. It's one way. And two, we measure. When we find out, so we have the measurement where we find out before how the literacy level, after they've done the course in 6 months' time in the job market, where they are, what kind of they're doing it. And then three, part of the business is kind of like, as we say, Lulo, we build kind of a business where people in the community are looking up to. So we build that business to a point that it becomes kind of an inspiration. It becomes a situation where they aspire to do better. Because we're saying that we come from this communication, we've kind of seen that we've made it without anything because of hard work, because of passion, and nothing stopping you. So don't wait for government, for someone to come and able to do something for you. You must do for yourself. Those values able to say to many young people that, if you could do it from a boot of a car without anything, so what is stopping me to do it? And this is where, more than anything, that we're emphasizing that you can. As you get a skill, go out there and make sure that you become better. And when you go better, you become ambassadors. And when you open the doors, look for others, so to make sure that everyone be part of that kind of process.
Definitely, I can definitely add to that as well. On my side, a lot of people know my story back at home as well. 25, but it didn't start that way. And I'm an advocate for education, but I'm probably the least most qualified person on earth. I was a straight A student, so let me just give you a quick brief. Straight A student from the first grade all the way to the 12th, wanted to be a medical doctor, but entrepreneurship just lured me in, business bug. And then I went to university for the first year. Everything was great. We didn't have finance for the second year. So in that spare time, I learned about the psychology of finance. Why do some people have money? Why do some people don't have money? Like investing, how do you grow your money? How do you make your money work for you? And that's where the company started. And from the skills that I learned and the knowledge, I wanted to impart that to other people. So it wasn't... I wasn't like this in the beginning. And this is why it's so important to give back to young girls, to show them, yes, I am the role model, but what am I doing to give back to them? So they know the story, and also some of our clients, we have really great client testimonials, work with great government organizations, as well as private sectors as well. Great testimonials of people who take charge of their finances, who grow their money as well. But above all else, as a director of a company, as the face of the company, you are the example. People have to draw from your story. You have to lead by example as well. So people fall in love with the story, and they fall in love with the vision. And even though I continue to study now, because I'm fortunate enough to pay for university and continue with my studies, but the goal that I have is to allow the company to become a full-on training institution with different courses at an affordable rate, because somewhere along the line, I was once 17 and 18 and didn't have the finance to further my education, but that didn't stop me. So we need to stop making excuses of, well, I didn't go to university, I didn't come from a rich home. You need to use the resources around you and stop making excuses, because you could be a leader. You could be sitting up here at the World Forum for Responsible Economy in 2017, and it's all about inspiring people and being the example.
And thank you for your question, because you touched a very important point. It's about motivation. What I think motivation we cannot give to anyone. Motivation is like a key that each one have inside. We used to say that every person has a key. If she wants to turn it off, it will. Otherwise, nothing will happen. Then we use only how to encourage people to get on the activities. We talk to the communities, we talk about the work and how it works, and we show histories of the other women that already passed through the process and that are in a different stage of life now. Then the history of the one who is similar with me. For example, we have the same condition, but she did in effort, and she is in a different situation now, a situation that I want for me as well. I want to be as good as she is. Then we want to take part on this. But the motivation is something very inner from each people.
Bibi, did you want to add something? Yeah. I'll just add something really quickly and say that the people that I'm talking to most often are company representatives. And what I see is that the ability to deliver something that is of scale. And so, for example, if I'm talking to a company, they say, you know what I'd really love to be a part of is for my company to be associated with, female entrepreneurs solving water issues in indigenous communities. Can you make that happen, for example? And I say, well, for me, it's like a puzzle. It's like, this NGO needs to be involved, and this government agency needs to be involved, and these companies could be involved as funders, and these communities we need to reach out to. And so part of it is being able to put the project together. But what I see that the people that I'm talking to, the company representatives, what they're looking for is something that's going to have a large return on investment from the point of view of impact. They don't want to just take company resources and put it into, this is a nice little program, and then we'll fund another nice little program. They want to actually solve some issues, and so I think that's the real motivator, is the ability to say, yes, we believe that we can get the right people together and facilitate movement towards a solution that's going to be of significant impact. And I think we've got time for one more. Yeah, we have a question right here in the front.
Thank you for your inspiring speeches. I was wondering, I noticed first that you came from different countries, and I was wondering if all of your projects, would you be interesting to export those projects in other countries? And if yes, how do you manage the fact that the culture is different, also as the education?
Great question.
Let me start. We are already wondering about how to extend the program and the project to the other countries, especially countries where the women's situation is similar to Brazil, countries under development. The first point is to understand the local culture. I think we cannot just take one program and put exactly the same at the other place, at the other country, without understanding the local culture and habits and way of life, the people. We have like a central line, a main line, with some chapters in the social methodology, social technology, and it have to be customized. We have to understand the different issues of each country and adapt that. I think the needs are very similar at every country when we talk about women's situation, when we talk about inclusion. The problems are pretty much the same, but we have to customize respecting the local culture and habits and way of living of the people.
Definitely, I can add to that. So when it comes to our girls program, we only have it in South Africa right now, but because it was so impactful and it really had a positive influence in the girls' lives, we really want to take it to other countries all over the world, because all countries have women, number one. And number two, money makes the world go round. So money and women are two things that we address in these young girls programs. So by all means, if any corporations or organizations would like to use our fee-fine girls programs in their countries, then we'll definitely be able to partner up with them. And the biggest part is that if we partner up with people, for example, if you are from France, it would be your job to educate us on the culture and the type of people and the languages as well, because in as much as we're speaking English here today, sometimes it doesn't resonate to the people. So it will be a case of we change the content to suit the language of the particular country that we're working with, and also to understand the culture, because yes, we are women. All over the world we have the same issues, but sometimes the issues are more severe in certain countries. If you look at Western Africa, for example, and Northern Africa, some young girls can't go to school altogether. You know, whereas in South Africa, our girls are educated. It's just a case of being promoted to the next position in corporate. So our problems aren't as severe as people in Northern and Western Africa. But at the end of the day, the foundation is still the same with the girls' programs. So it's just about understanding people's cultures, because I mean, we live in a very beautiful and diverse world. So understanding the cultures, understanding the languages, and then changing and modifying the courses so it can resonate with the local people.
I think for us, we've been have many requests from guys from Malawi, Zimbabwe. We already wanted to have the model in their kind of countries. So we're building probably model better, so to make sure that we don't have problems in the wrong in terms of support. So now we're in the space now, we're ready now to scale it, and I think with no time, we'll see the model beyond South Africa, and I think that's what we envisage, and I think this is what we're really looking in terms of scaling these businesses, and I think that's what we want to see, that it becomes an African problem, worldwide problem, where we address the issue of connectivity and access and skill and entrepreneurship.
Okay, my case, you know, I work with the slogan, Fashion for Development. And it's been taken most of the country where they have heritage culture like West Africa, Latin America, then now Central Asia, Cambodia, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, India. Because what I do when I work in Bangladesh, I make sure all the ingredients are from local. I don't import this from that country, that from that country. So the fashion for development, the sustainable development, why it's become so popular in all these countries. So if the craftspeople make $10, it all stays in the country. That's why India, I'm a state guest for the government of India to uplift India, same as all other countries. So I think that it's so important, maybe where you come from, around you, if you buy all the thing import. When I work in Colombia, that was the problem I had. Colombia it's a beautiful country. They have so many things, but they don't grow cotton. They were buying their fabric from Chile, from Mexico, and all these things. So now they start to do organic cotton. So I start to make all the things, because they do very beautiful knitting, they do beautiful accessories, beautiful crochet. I work with that. At the same time, I make sure they make their cotton. You know, so it's very important. If you pay all this money importing things, they don't have anything. So I think you can start. And another thing, I think there is so important in social medias. You make stories, you spread around the work. The beautiful work is done in this country, handmade, beautiful things you can find in this thing. That is, you can do. We need the help of young generation. And another thing very important for me, respect their human dignity. You know, I'm not even first step in the ladder. But you see, I never said I need funding. I can work. Give us the strength. Give us the courage. Give us the strength to continue. Thank you.
Yeah. Wonderful. I think that's a great note to end on. The theme around dignity, I think, is really important, and I'm glad that you touched on that and a couple of the other themes that I think I've been hearing from all this that really relate to the Sustainable Development Goals themselves, the idea around partnerships, the idea around really taking the gender equality issue very seriously and putting as much emphasis and resources towards that as a vehicle to do a lot more. I wish you all wonderful success with your initiatives, and I'd like to invite you to join me in thanking all of our speakers here today. Thank you so much, Bibi, Nilisue, Nubio, and Leda. And yeah, I think we'll hang out a little bit after. Feel free to come up and ask more questions, and I think some of us are moving towards lunch, so enjoy your lunch.